Hi, my name is Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on Microsoft 365. And today we're going to talk about JSON data and look at Forms, Power Automate, and then at the end a little bit on Power BI. So let's get going. One of my videos that I did some time back about using Forms and Power Automate to send an email, I had a really good comment here that says, hey, it was quite helpful, but is there a way to iterate through the list of multiple choice answers from a form and display it in multiple lines? It says right now when the multiple choice answer displayed in square brackets and as a comma separated string in the email. And yeah, it's a great question. And what the Banks there is describing is really JSON data. So let's see if we can recreate that and come up with an answer. So I'm going to jump to Forms for a minute. And as you've heard me say many times, we want to go ahead and make group forms. Oops, looks like it expired since I got in there. All right. And I'm going to say a new group form. Well, it's kind of fun. I've done other videos on Copilot, but it offered to draft it with Copilot. So let's see if we can use that to make the form quicker. So say, ask what Microsoft 365 products the user uses and which ones would be helpful for more training. Let's see what it comes up with. All right. So that looks good. So let's go ahead and keep it, and then we can go ahead and edit from there. But I didn't have to come put all the 365 products in there. Now I might quibble and say they didn't put like Power Apps and Power Automate and stuff in there, but that's good enough for now. What I really want to do is show what happens with these two things. So that's great. Now what we might need to do is, you'll see, is I want to have my hands on the ID of the form. One thing you've seen me talk about in various other emails is that it doesn't give me a list when it's a group form. I got to use the ID. So whoops. So let's grab that. See where it says ID equals. I need that big old long thing there. So let's copy that and let's go over to Power Automate. And let's create automated cloud flow, and I'll just say video parse multiple choice data. And the first trigger that we want is when a new response is submitted. So we'll click on that, and this is what I was talking about where it doesn't have, it only has my personal forms, but I say enter custom value, paste, and then I go to forms again, get response details, do the same thing, custom value, and then here hit the little lightning bolt and I pick response ID. So that gives me the form itself. And what I want to do first is just put a couple variables in there and just look at the data. This is something I do a lot where I want to come in and just look first and before I decide what to do. So I'm just going to call this var answer 1, and I like to self document as I do it. So var answer 1 here, and that is string. And what I'm going to put in there is which ones we use. That's the first answer. And then kind of a new one is that didn't used to be there till the new designer is I can paste. So I'm going to say var answer 2 and change this to var answer 2. And I'll pick the second one. When do you want more training on? So I'm going to save this And then we go ahead and leave because I'm going to need to answer the form now. So let's go back to the form. And I should be able to just answer it here. So I'm going to say a Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I pretty much use all these, but there we go. That'll give us some. And maybe I want more training on Teams and OneNote and OneDrive, let's say. So let's submit. And let's go back, Power Automate, and refresh, see if it's run yet. Yep, succeeded, so it took 490 milliseconds. But what I want to do is look at the answer, and that's, see if I can zoom in there a little bit. There you go, get it on. Whoops, try it again to get it on the screen better. Got to get it to where we can get it inside the video. There we go. So see, that's what we're talking about, is the data is in what we call JSON format. Now, sometimes the JSON has a column name and then the value, but this one just is basically an array of a set of values. We're going to use that in a minute, but that's not the greatest. And we're going to talk later in the end. Let me show you what it looks like when we write it to SharePoint. We're not doing it in here, but I'm going to connect to this list in Power BI. But notice if I write it to SharePoint, it will put it straight that way. And if we're going to just visualize in Power BI, I'll talk about that at the end of the video. We'll just leave it alone and deal with it when we get to Power BI. But here, and in the video that the person was referencing, we were emailing it and sending it out in Teams chat. So it would be convenient if we could do something better with it. So the first thing to, so let's go ahead and edit here. So the first thing to really understand is this is basically an array, but Power Automate doesn't recognize it as an array. So that's where we want to kind of deal with. So what I want to go back here and do a little bit of a trick here. And I'll show you what happens first. So I really want this to be an array. But watch what happens when I come in here, and if I try to do anything, it won't give me my questions because it thinks I want an array. And even when I come in and try to do an expression, because I'm going to use the JSON expression, but when I come back to dynamic content, it's not quite smart enough to realize I could use some strings to make it into an array. So I got to do a little bit of a trick here. So what I got to do is I got to keep this as string and then go to the expression, type in that JSON, and you can see it has a string that's an input. Go back to dynamic content and add the first question and say add. But I can't change it to array now. I need to go ahead and save first. Kind of bit me a couple times because I tried to change it right then. I didn't realize it switched away and lost my value. So now that I've saved it, now I can change it to array and save it again. So let's do that for answer 2 as well. So again, I'm going to leave it as a string, get rid of that, go to the JSON, go to dynamic content, get the second question, add it, save it, click away, click back, change this to array. And then what I wanted to do first is there's an HTML, action, but it wants column names and values. So it wasn't real easy to make it just have the value. So I decided to use variables instead. So I'm just going to make 2 more variables. And I'm just going to call it var answer1 HTML. And I'm just going to build an HTML table. So all I need to do now is just start it with the table like that. Again, I'll say var answer1 HTML. And I'll go ahead and copy this and paste. And this will be var answer2 HTML. Change this to answer2. There we go. So now what I can do is just loop through the array and make it into a table. So I come here and I say apply to each, and I'll just say loop through answer1, and I'll take var answer1, and then all I need to do here is just build our rows. So you need a little bit of HTML knowledge to make this work, but you can find that out online pretty easily. So we're going to append to the string variable. So I'm going to say append to var answer1 HTML, and do that. And then what I put in is just a row. So it's tr for the row, td for the column. Then I grab current item, which is the stuff that's in quotes, and then I just close it. Close the column, close the row, like that. Let me see if it'll allow me. Oh, and then let's finish this off. So then I need to close off the variable. Again, so I'll append to var answer1 HTML2 because I can't have the same name, and I'll just close the table like that. There we go. Let's see if, I'm not actually sure if I can copy this or not, but let's see if I can copy that and paste it. Yeah, it looks like it. So I'll say loop through answer2, and I'll change this to answer2, and then we'll, oh, so it's not showing me answer2 HTML for some reason. Let's go up and look for this for a minute. Let me go. Not quite sure why that's not showing right now, so let's change the name. All right, let's see if I can save this for a second. It might give me an error. Append to var2 HTML. All right, let's just delete this one. See if it'll allow me to save. Got a little bit confused here. Let's leave and come back in. Let's make sure. So that's an array. That's an array. That's a string. That's a string. Okay. Let's see if we can add inside here now. All right, let's append to the string variable. We'll name it var answer2 HTML. There it is. Now it's showing up. And I'm going to go copy from here because it was kind of a lot of typing. So let's come back here and I'll copy that. need to get rid of that and put it in again so it finds the right one. So I'll say loop through answer 2. That should be the right one. And then I'll copy that one. There we go. Perfect. All right. So last thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and post it. So we'll go Teams first. Post a message in a chat or channel. Flowbot, chat with Flowbot. I'm just going to send it to myself. And I'll just put in, now we've got some interesting things in here. Might as well spend a second. So we can say response received from, and we have who filled out the form. Maybe we want to know the date, time. Now this one we got to be a little careful because it'll come back, as I mentioned in other videos, it'll come in back in Greenwich Mean Time and stuff. So let's go ahead and fix that right away so we don't, and we can format it well. So first thing we want to do is change time zone. Or convert time zone. So the first thing it wants is the timestamp, so we can get that from the form. That's submission time. And then we need to tell it what time zone it is. We call that UTC. And then we need to tell it the time we want. Now this one's a little hard because I have to say standard time, so it's kind of a hassle. So I could do some logic saying that we want to figure out if we're in daylight savings time or not. But if you do this, you get a kind of a weird format that's got a T for time zone and stuff. So we're going to do format date time of that. And then it's got just a general with a small g that I kind of like. Let's put all that in there. So we'll try that out, see if it works. And then I can say, really I can copy from the form. I'll submit another response just to copy. So I'll just grab that. And I'll put in answer 1 HTML. And then I'll grab second question. Didn't want to get the 2. There we go. And put answer 2 HTML. All right, let's copy all this. So I'm going to go ahead and send an email as well. I'm going to find the send an email. And I'll again send it, or actually I'll send it to one of my other addresses because it doesn't have to be the one from associated with my account. So I'll send it to a different email address. And this one I get a subject. So I'll say response received from and go ahead and put the email address in there. And then I'll just paste in all that stuff. All right, so let's try it. And the good news is that we don't have to fill out the form again to test this. We can just reuse the last submission and see if it worked. So let's go ahead and test automatically with the last one. 14 minutes ago, so it took me that long to get the rest of it all set up since we tested it. So let's run through it. All right, look like it is. Now I've got workflow one, but looks like the date and time worked okay, but didn't actually give the ones that we wanted. So let's look and see. Let's look at the. Oh yeah, so this didn't actually work. Let's see why. It did get the 3 answers, and this one had 8, but it didn't. Oh yeah, this one it put the word on. I'm having a little trouble going through the. Yeah, but it didn't do that. Let me pause the video for a minute and let me see if I can figure out what went wrong. All right, well, I'm back. I figured it out, but let's go through some of that. So the first thing that was interesting was that the email came back and it actually worked. So you can see it came back and gave me the products that I wanted there, but I tried a couple of the Teams ones and it didn't. So then I started looking at the HTML, and let me go back. Let me go to a previous run here. So let's go look at one of these I've done. Let me find 2 of them ago. So I looked at the loop here, and if it's kind of hard to see, but if I zoom in a little bit, oops, let me try it again. There we go. If you look closely, I had a typo here. See, it had TR instead of TD, it was RD, and that was enough to make the Teams one not work, but the email went through okay. So if I look now, there's the ones where it kept not working, but now it put it in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so forth. So yeah, a little bit of some gyrations, but again, got the job done. So let's finish off a little bit to talk about the Power BI. So as I mentioned, this is an old list I had from a forms, and one of the things was the LMS. You were supposed to, like in a survey, pick on which LMSs you used, and they all show up in this same JSON format. So let's bring up Power BI. It just got us a little bit started where I just connected to the list and then went ahead and did a count and an initial pie chart. And you can see what the problem is that, let me zoom in there a little bit more, is Blackboard. You see Blackboard's in all of these, but each slice is the different combination of them. So what we really wanted to see is a pie chart that's just got everybody who chose Blackboard, everybody who chose Moodle, and so forth. So let's talk about how we can do it here. So what you want to do is go into transform data, and go to that column. So let's find that current LMS. There it is. And I want to go to transform, and I want to go to parse and JSON. And you'll see it puts it into as a list here. And notice how I get the steps. So I could reverse this, and I click this and I say expand to new rows. And what's important to understand is make sure you have an index for these, because if you don't, if it's an Excel or whatever, there's an insert index column. Let me find that for you right there. So you could add index column if you wanted to, if the data didn't have it. But SharePoint already does. And say, notice like it duplicates. So this is 3, there's 4, or 3 4s, there's some 5s, and so forth. So that's what we want to do. Now let's close and apply. So you see we're already getting, see how we have the blackboard, but notice it thinks that we have 14 items. So we've got to be really careful here. So what we have to change that is that was doing count, and make sure I say count distinct, and that makes sure it doesn't count each entry. It doesn't give more weight to these. And I also have to come here and make sure that, whoops, that one's as well too. So I've got number of items, and I need to say count distinct there as well. And then now we've got what we want. We can see that in this survey, Blackboard was 35.7%, and then we had the different things. This is from an old survey. Somebody said NA. But that's how we can deal with it if you have the JSON data, or JSON, column data inside of SharePoint or something else. Now notice if we were trying to work right with the Excel file, and I can probably show that one last thing before I sign off. Let's go back to this form, and let's go to responses. Oh, there it is, view responses. If we open it in Excel, now it does it a little bit different for whatever reason. It doesn't show it in, it doesn't put it in JSON format. It just puts semicolons before it. So not a big deal. You can parse in Power BI that way and split the columns, but you do the same thing, make new rows on each one. So anyway, hope this was helpful. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.